Hi, I'm Philip Oliver.
And I'm Andrew Oliver.
Together we're known as the Oliver Twins. Over our whole careers, which is quite long now, yes, we're old.
30 plus years
It
of
is.
game development.
We wrote an awful lot of games, especially in the mid to late 80s, where we wrote over 50 original 8-bit games.
So on Amstrad, Spectrum, and many of those games went across to the Commodore 64, and then later into 16-bit. Oh, the NES games. I've got a lot of NES games, about 13.
And you skipped a few BBC and Dragon 32.
Yes, so, and I was going to say ST and Amiga. So we wrote a lot of games.
So it all started with our brother getting a ZX81, putting it under the family TV, and us being absolutely fascinated by being able to sort of program it and see what we'd written on the screen. You know, sort of the 10 print hello world, 20 go to 10, that kind of stuff. Actually, you can't do much more on a ZX81. We found that out because it's got 1K of memory and a paper keyboard, and it's pretty dreadful. So we did learn though from a ZX81 that we needed a better computer. So we did a paper round, saved up, and bought a Dragon 32.
Learned how to sort of program that. It had a useful command for sprites, so you could move little tiny Space Invaders or Pac-Man around the screen, and were able to make proper little games. I remember making a Centipede game, and it was 2 players, so we could like have fun playing against ourselves. I mean, one of the things that we were trying to do when we made our games is not make them so difficult. We were really frustrated that it would take 10-15 minutes to load a cassette, and then you'd have games which tried to replicate the gameplay of the arcades, which were all about taking 1020p out of you for 3-minute experience. But you bought this game. You bought this game. You can play it for the evening. So why does it kill you so repetitively?
Why does the game feel it needs to knock you out?
So we were playing popular games at the time were Jet Set Willy and Manic Miner, and we just found them insanely difficult. And we wanted to make a platform game where it wasn't just about pixel perfect jumps on everything, and thought actually, let's make it so that it's more about exploring the world and going around the different screens. And actually, so where's the gameplay if it's not about jumping on the right platforms? So we thought, well, let's put some story and some puzzles into it.
So we actually thought if we could combine an arcade side-on platformer, sort of like Space Panic, with arcade with the adventure elements, and put the two together, that would create a really interesting sort of action-adventure game, which at that point was pretty novel. And that's kind of how we came up initially with Super Robin Hood, but then we moved that on to Ghost Hunters, and then of course the big one, Dizzy. So you have to remember that actually in the 8-bit days, there weren't really ways to do things, proper sort of books on techniques, because the techniques were being developed by people before books were written about it. So we were having to make up everything as we went along, but we were also having to make our own tool setup as we were going along. So initially, and a lot of people talk about this, a lot of game developers were actually putting their graphics onto graph paper and then converting the codes from graph paper into hex codes and then putting the data into the game. Well, we did that for our first game, KV. So what we decided to do is make ourselves an art package to begin with, so we could just draw all the graphics on screen, and then we could just output them as we needed.
In the right format.
But the first time we did this, we found that, okay, that worked okay, but now we've got to kind of cut the little sections out. And that was taking too long.
And get them animating.
So we thought, okay, we can improve on that.
So we did Panda Sprites, which was a little editor that allowed you to do little animated characters. Panda is P and A, for P and A Oliver.
So this was before we sort of used the Oliver Twins, I think.
Yeah.
Which is stupid because everybody calls the Oliver Twins at school. So
yeah,
for some unknown reason.
But we spent a long time on the editor to make sure it was very usable, and then decided to sell it. So.
Yeah. So having sort of made that, it was actually incredibly quick and easy for us to sort of just draw little animated sprites and then output them from this, put them into the game, just check they work. And if you had to make any modifications, you could literally go in, make a character's nose slightly bigger or something, press the save button, just run the game again and go, oh right, that's how he looks now. For using the graph paper method, you're talking about half a day turnaround. So in fact, getting a really good streamlined pipeline worked for us really, really well.
But it's all about getting the right tools. Right tools for the job, and that's how we managed to make so many games. Funny things, we sold the tools, other people could have used them. I do know that some games actually use them, but not many. Yeah. Most people just seem to be happy doing it the hard way.
the original Dizzy didn't really take off initially. Codemasters and the Darlings didn't actually like it. They weren't actually on publishing it. They only published it because all of our other games had been successful for them, so they reluctantly published it. And the public didn't actually purchase it much either, because this was an unheard of title. They weren't sure what they were getting.
It wasn't great artwork on the box either.
That didn't help. However, it did keep selling, and so after about a year of constant sales,
We decided to do a sequel.
we thought we'd do a sequel, and that was Treasure Island Dizzy, and that went ballistic. I mean, I think everybody that had bought the original Dizzy,
Over the previous year, went out and bought it the first week.
yeah, so it
Which
was a
incredible.
huge success.
Which
and
then meant, yeah, we've got to do another, because Treasure Island Dizzy had some issues, and we were kind of almost surprised by the take up. We thought it was popular enough to make a sequel, but then when it suddenly went straight to #1 in the charts, it's like, oh my goodness. Okay, so then we decided, okay, let's go back, make a third, which was Fantasy World Dizzy. In fact, we have the hand-drawn map here.
this is how we used to design games.
Yeah, so we'll spend much longer. We might spend 6 weeks on this one. No,
I think it was about 6 weeks on this one.
we'll create a family, a much bigger adventure, put a lot more thought into the puzzles, and this is the one that we were certainly proud of. Like, by the third one, we felt we'd got a really good formula that worked really well. And beyond there obviously more Dizzy games came to follow. They were different stories, but the same formula as Fantasy World Dizzy.